Kraven the Hunter stars Aaron Taylor Johnson and tells the story of Kraven's complex relationship with his ruthless father, Nikolai Kravenov, who starts him down a path of vengeance with brutal consequences, motivating him to not only become the greatest hunter in the world, but also the most feared.
Mr. Taglin? Mr. Taglin? Where's Mr. Taglin?
Oh, you're standing in him.
The Sony Spider-Man-less Spider-Man universe has been a mixed bag, to say the least. The two Venom films I enjoyed to certain degrees. The third one was fine. I didn't overly hate it, and it definitely didn't make me hate my life coming out of it. I just thought it was okay. But outside of the Venom films, we have Morbius, Madam Web, and Kraven the Hunter. The best way that I've been able to describe the last three films, you have Morbius that made me sad because I was the 1% that was really excited for this movie, and I just came out really disappointed because it had so much potential and it was just absolutely wasted. Then you got Madam Web here that made me a little bit horny because you had Dakota Johnson seducing me before going into the movie, telling me that I was going to watch this movie twice.
I know that when you see Madam Web, you're gonna love it. In fact, I think you're gonna see it twice.
And I'm ashamed to say that I've seen it more than twice. And you also had three beautiful women to look at, so it could get me through the movie and the awful dialogue and the awful ADR. Kraven had none of that, and it really doesn't have anything else new in here. It's basically all the other two films just mashed it to one. All the worst qualities of those two films is basically what you have with Kraven the Hunter. Now, the one thing that a lot of people are going to come out saying is that Aaron Taylor Johnson is probably the highlight of this movie, and I would agree. I think he's able to do the best that he possibly can with the material that he is given, which is not really all that much. You have a lot of different things going on in here, and at 2 hours, I just wanted to go to bed because this movie just dragged on. After the first 8 minutes that we've seen online, we spent about a good 30 to 40 minutes with Kraven's backstory, seeing the dilemma between him, his dad, and his brother, seeing how that family dynamics really shifted, and they tried to do a really good job of trying to get you connected to this story to make you feel something, so that when his brother gets kidnapped later in the film, then you can start feeling something. You want him to go after these guys, you want him to get his vengeance, and you want to get his brother back. The problem with that is you don't really give a shit about anything that happens because they don't really do a good job of fleshing that story out. Every single beat in this movie is paint by numbers. You know exactly what this movie is going to take, and I was really hoping that the R rating would boost this movie up because everybody wanted the Venom movies to be rated R and just go balls to the walls. Well, they tried it with Kraven, and this proved that even if the Venom movies were rated R, it wasn't going to make a difference because they were going to shit it out of the park either way. The violence in here is brutal when we have it, which is a majority towards the last half of this movie. And I think for the most part, some of the fight sequences towards the end of the movie are pretty enjoyable and pretty entertaining to see. You really want to see Kraven using all these different traps, and you want to see all these villains get their comeuppance. The issue with it is that everything that happens between the beginning and that, you don't really give a shit about because it is absolutely boring as shit. One of the villains that you have in here is the Rhino, and they don't really do shit with his character. You just have them there to kidnap Kraven's brother so you can get an emotional hook, and so his brother can see who his brother turned out to be, because when they were younger, his dad basically outcasted him because he was a bit of a pussy, and that's exactly what his brother grows up to be eventually. He grows up to become this owner, this singer of this club that he owns that his daddy probably bought him, and when shit goes down, he's basically cowering down like a pussy animal, and so he's basically one of the biggest pussies on the planet. And for some reason, we're supposed to be attached to these characters. That is the biggest problem that this movie has, is the fact that you don't give a shit about any of these characters. You don't get attached to any of these characters. You also have Ariana DeBose, who is an Academy Award winning actress, and I want to know if they tricked her in the same way that they tricked Dakota Johnson and Sydney Sweeney to be in Madam Web. I want to know if that's exactly what happened, because they don't give her shit to do either. Everybody in this movie is not given enough to do. You have Ariana DeBose, who's just there to save Kraven's life at the beginning of the film, and for her to get caught or get set up and somehow saves Kraven's life at towards the end of the film so she can have her moment to shine, but it never felt earned. None of these moments feel earned, and that's the biggest issue that I have with this movie. I don't care how much begging JC Chandor has to get us to go see this movie, because I think he knew that even though the pre-sales for this movie were really low, I think he knew that he had a stinker on his hand, and he knew, and he was trying to bait everybody to go see this movie, because this would have been probably their last hope. And if this movie did great, probably like Venom numbers, then the Sony universe wouldn't be dead for now, but it would still continue, and we will still be getting out these garbage, because the only thing Sony cares about is having the Spider-Man rights, and they're going to be pumping out sooner or later. They're going to be pumping out the same old things. They're trying to set up a Sinister Six that's never going to happen, and God bless Russell Crowe. He is in the movie for a little bit, and he is trying his best. Some of the ADR in this movie isn't as bad as Madam Web, but it's at times it becomes very laughable. The CGI in here, especially with a lot of the animals, is god awful and hard to look at. The animals in here look just absolutely awful. You can definitely tell when the movie had a lot of reshoots, because you can see in the background just how awful the green screen is. The characters don't have much to do. Some action sequences here and there, but everything else in between is just god awful. And then once we find out that Kraven's dad has been setting him up to kill him, then we have about 5 minutes more, which almost felt like a post-credit scene, except they just didn't want to tag that on because they knew probably nobody would have given a shit. But after Kraven saves his brother, you have his brother who goes back to running his club, except he has a little bit of a dark side now. He met up with a doctor in New York, which could either be Kirk Connors or Otto Octavius. I'm assuming that it's Kirk Connors. They don't really say who it is, and this is where you find out that he is turned into the chameleon, and I just don't know. They were trying to set this movie up for a sequel in case it succeeded. It's not. You have Kraven that gets his famous look from the comic because his father gave it to him as his present, and it's just, there were many times when I wanted to fall asleep, and I could have, because I was so tired, but I didn't. I stuck it out, because this is the end of the Sony universe for now, until we get another one, maybe like after Beyond the Spider-Verse or after the next Spider-Man film. But overall, this is a movie that you should just stay away from. Or if you want to try some edibles and watch this movie, it's okay if you just get high or get drunk at home and check it out on Netflix or Stars or wherever they're going to be having this movie. But overall, it's just a chore to get through. A chore I wouldn't even wish this on my worst enemies. But those are my thoughts on Kraven the Hunter. I know you guys aren't planning on checking it out, but if you have checked it out, or if you have even the slightest of interest, go ahead and drop your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you guys for the next video.